Chapter 52. Dad, can I drive over to Kevin's house and bring him over here? I asked. I was bouncing a small rubber ball against the living room wall. I was so bored. Stop that, he replied at my ball bouncing. And no, we've been over this so many times that I've lost track. You can't drive illegally. Call David and see if he can drive you over there. Worst comes to worst, I'll go get him. I huffed to myself and complained to Kevin. There's no use calling David, he said. Something's wrong with his car. He dialed David into a three-way call with us. Is your stupid brother home? I asked him. What does that matter? I thought you hated him, David asked in irritation. Because if he's not there, then I'll come over and see what's wrong with your car. Maybe I can fix it. He laughed hysterically. I just counted to 10. We're going to hang up on you, I warned him. I hung up on him. Kevin called back and conferenced me back in. A little while later, my dad picked up Kevin and dropped us both off at David's house. Please tell me that someone else is home, preferably a parent, and you're not going to be alone with two guys with raging hormones, Daddy remarked as Kevin exited the truck. I wondered if he had just noticed that my friends were males. Oh, Dad, David's mom is home, and I think his older brother is too, I replied in exasperation. Kevin, David, and I had been alone many times at our house. Why would being alone at David's house make a difference? Parents were so hard to understand. You sure about that? Do you want to meet them? I asked back. I didn't expect him to say yes, but he did. David had to reintroduce me and my dad to his mom and his older brother, Rob. Daddy and I had met his parents a few years before when I'd subbed as Juliet in a school play. Only after checking with David's mom to see if it was okay that I visited did my dad leave. I had commandeered his toolbox. David's mom wanted to talk about Alan, but luckily David got me out of that conversation. I had been about to tell her that I was going to get a restraining order out on him. There were so many things I was going to tell her about Alan. She wouldn't have liked any of them. David, Kevin, and I gathered around the front of his car and looked under the hood. The battery was almost dead a few days ago, but I had it recharged. Now it seems like it's almost dead again, David told me. He had a video camera in his hand. He was filming the car and talking to us. The camera is not going to help us fix this, I informed him. This is in case I need to sue you, he said. I rolled my eyes towards Kevin in a what the fuck? He's just kidding, Kevin assured me. See if it will start. I listened as the car tried to start. I listened for the click of the solenoid. Yep, it was okay. I also heard a slight grinding noise. The engine caught and started. David left it running and got out of the car. Your starter's shot, I told him. It's going to cost anywhere from $200 to $400 just for the part. I can put it on for you, though. Are you sure? You're just a kid, and a girl at that. Do you expect me just to take your word for it? He asked. You can ask my dad if you want, or his friend Bob. Both of them are good mechanics. It was going to be a while before my dad could get back to us, so I suggested to David that we kiss up to his mom by mowing and weed-eating the yard while we waited. He agreed, so the three of us tackled the yard. It was over an hour later when my dad came back to confirm my diagnosis of the starter. David talked to his mom and she gave him the money to buy the starter. My dad drove us to the parts store and back. He asked me for a rundown of how I was going to put the part in, and I told him. Sounds good. See you later. So in between David worrying whether we were changing out the starter correctly, Kevin and I worked on his car. Both Kevin and I had a natural ability in mechanics, and we conferred with each other as we worked. I heard the clicking of the shutter as David took pictures. I knew he also had that video camera filming us. He was so irritating. Hey, dumbass, why don't you make yourself useful and get me a 9/16 wrench instead of videotaping us? I asked him at one point. I think I'll play this footage for your dad so he can see the young lady he's raised, I heard him say in amusement. If Daddy holds my ass back home to do chores, All I see is your sorry ass in a bind with a car that doesn't run, 'cause half the parts are strewn all over the yard. You are so going to regret saying all this shit you say to me when you're famous one day and I put all this footage together to show the world how you really are," he threatened back. "The footage will just show the world what a pansy-ass girl you are." At that point, it was obvious he didn't know a 9/16 wrench from a screwdriver. "Will you two shut up?" Kevin griped from beside me. "David, just get her the damn wrench, okay?" I chuckled while David grumbled and fumbled in the toolbox. After several questions, he finally had found the wrench I wanted. His mom came out several times, as did his brother Rob. Rob looked a lot like David, tall, brown-haired, and brown-eyed. He was painting their parents' bedroom and wasn't able to help us, but he didn't know anything about fixing cars anyways. He just couldn't believe that two 15-year-olds were working on a car. We had some bumps along the way, and it took way longer than I had imagined, but we finally got the starter in and working. I was sure that David was filming most of it. "It starts!" he exclaimed. "No shit, Sherlock. We told you that we knew what we were doing." To Kevin, he said, "I can't believe you're good at something." "You're such an asshole," Kevin replied back. Then they were pushing each other around. They suddenly turned and looked at me. David reached out to playfully smack me. A good game of chase sounded fun, so I jumped out of his reach and started running. David had longer legs and was just as fast a runner as I was, but my quickness was unexpected and it took him half a block to catch me. But wouldn't you know it, David's dad and younger brother were pulling into the driveway as we ran past it. "Hey, that's my girl!" Alan yelled out the window. "What the fuck?" So then David's dad was having a conversation with Alan about cussing. Then he told David that he shouldn't be chasing Alan's girlfriend. Kevin was laughing his ass off, even though he knew it was infuriating to me. "Don't embarrass me, Dad," David whined. His dad ignored him and turned to me. "You probably want to wash up. There's a sink in the garage." I surveyed myself. I had grease several places on my arms, hands, shirt, pants, and probably my face. Whatever, I just put a starter in a car. "Yeah, Snookums, I need you to pretty up for me," Alan said sweetly. "Focus your attention on some other girl. If you don't quit harassing me, I'll file a restraining order on you," I replied back. "Young lady, I'll have you know that my son has a very high IQ and is planning to go to MIT. He's going to be somebody. You've never given him a chance," his dad informed me. I met his dad's eyes. I couldn't believe he was talking up that piece of walking trash he'd created. Did he really approve of the way his son talked to women? I had to bite my tongue in order not to blurt out that Alan wasn't even his kid. "Mr. Steiner, that's all well and good, but I'm going to be a famous rock star in a few years, and I'm serious about the restraining order, if not from me, from some other girl. We're tired of him talking trash to us. It's demeaning and it's sexual harassment," I told him very seriously. David and Kevin suddenly looked stricken, as if I'd gone too far. "How dare you say that about my son? And you a rock star? That's just a pipe dream," his dad replied, ignoring everything else I'd said. "Come on, Alan, let's go inside and your mom will make her famous fried chicken that you like so much." Then to us he said, "Wash that grease off you and pick up those tools and go home." I imagined that we weren't going to be invited for supper. As his dad and Alan walked into the house, David said to me, "Restraining order, that was a good one. That fucking made my life when you said that. You just get away with saying so much shit. If I ever said anything remotely like that, my ass would be grass." I suppose that I did get away with talking a lot of shit. I meant it. I'm tired of him disrespecting me, and your dad is just as bad letting him get away with it. You're not that way. He shouldn't be that way either, I told him as I started picking up the tools and putting them in my dad's toolbox. "Yeah, sorry about what both of them said. Sometimes I think me and Rob are the only sane ones in the family. David said as he and Kevin helped me pick up the rest of the tools. I was hungry. If I buy some steaks, will you come over to my house and grill them for us? I asked. You want me to cook for you? He asked as he blinked at me. I shrugged my shoulders. Yeah, you owe me and Kevin. That was slave labor. And of course, if we eat, then my dad has to eat too. He drove us places. I buy the food, you cook it, all of us eat it. Sounds fair to me. Besides, I didn't hear your dad invite you for famous fried chicken. Yeah, that's damn straight, he scoffed. I felt bad for the way his family treated him. Steak sounds good, Kevin added, but we have to clean up first. At the sink inside the garage, David was wiping my face off with a wet soaping cloth. He said that he had to clean me up to spite Alan in case he walked out to bother us. I thought I'd have a problem with it, but secretly I liked it. No one hugged me or touched me much in my little world. I hadn't realized that I needed that human touch. It was a little bit of a shock to realize it. I let him continue and he washed off my arms. At the grocery store, I stayed in the car while they went in with the money I'd given them to buy the steaks and baking potatoes. Somehow, David managed to buy corn, French bread, and a pie. Dad was pleased and surprised when he came in from the pasture and saw David grilling. Off to the side, he asked, "How do you get these guys to do these things for you? I could never get women to do things for me. I can't even get you to cook." Then he sniffed the air and added, "Oh my God, that smells so good." "I put a starter in his car, Dad, remember? He owes me, and you get to reap the benefits too. And I don't need to cook or clean. I bush hog the fields, work on the tractor, and I do 1,000 other things for you on this ranch," I replied back as I looked at the clock. It was almost time for Speed Racer. He smirked to himself and went outside. I was sure he was shaking them down with his "don't do drugs" speech while I watched my favorite cartoon. Maybe he was also ribbing them for cooking for me. Daddy was quite the conversationalist that night, asking Kevin and David about their plans for their future, asking them about their interest, asking David how old he was. David had replied that he wanted to be a musician, and Kevin had said he was going to be a mechanic. "And what about you, Pumpkin?" my dad asked. They burst out laughing at my dad calling me Pumpkin. I put my hands over my face. "Seriously, Dad, you did not just say that in front of my friends." They all laughed a little more about it, and my dad repeated the question. "Yeah, Pumpkin, tell us," David said in amusement. He and Kevin laughed some more. I shrugged my shoulders and shot them a dirty look. "I don't know, sometimes nothing interests me, except blowing stuff up." "You told David's dad that you were going to be a rock star," Kevin piped up. I speared a piece of steak, dipped it in ketchup, and slowly chewed as I stared at Kevin in his big mouth. I knew all three of them were looking at me. "I didn't know you were really serious about that," Daddy remarked when I didn't reply. "What about all the drugs and drinking that goes on in that type of atmosphere?" In his mind, he wanted me to be a music teacher in Greenville. That's why he had me learn several instruments and take voice lessons. He selectively ignored anything I had ever said about acquiring fame as a musician. I glanced over at him. "I'm not going to do any of that shit. You've talked the subject to death. I'm just going to play drums or the guitar in a band or not. I may or may not do that at all." Daddy raised his eyebrows at me. I'd never said anything that disrespectful to him before. "You know that your mother got pregnant and then died of a heroin overdose," he reminded me for like the millionth time, but this time his voice had an accusing tone. I noticed that Kevin and David were too busy watching us to eat. From hearing that story so many times, I'd forgotten that not everyone had heard it a million times. "I can't help that she was so stupid, Daddy, all right?" I replied back with a little more aggravation than I'd planned, and I couldn't stop there for some reason. "And she was 14 when she got pregnant and had me. I'm older than she was and I'm still a virgin. And don't look at these guys, Daddy. They're just my friends and they're still virgins too. I'm just saying that I'm not my mother. All three of us are not my mother. At least I thought the three of us were all virgins. Who knew? Kevin and David were red-faced now and staring at their plates. Now I knew I was right about them being virgins. Okay, you're right, Daddy agreed. I'm just watching out for you. Just remember that. I know, I grumbled as I glanced at my friends. Sorry, guys, for embarrassing you. We'll move on to another subject. So speaking of Dad, when can I get a truck of my own? When you turn 16 and are old enough to get a driver's license. And I'm tired of you asking that question. I smiled despite his answer. Can you believe what I have to put up with? I asked Kevin and David. What you have to put up with? Guys, let me tell you some of the stuff I've had to put up with, Daddy told them. When she was 9, she started driving my truck to town when I was out in the field. I took the keys away when I found out. One day, she's 12, she decided to take the tractor to the gas station because it was almost out of diesel fuel. The neighbor saw her on the road and made her turn back. And that's just 2 of the things she's done. It's a wonder my hair isn't white by now. There were so many other things he didn't know about, too. I rolled my eyes while they laughed and made comments. They didn't know the half of it, and I wasn't telling. And if he'd left the keys to the truck, I wouldn't have taken it to the gas station to fill up on diesel fuel for the tractor. He went on to tell them about how I'd been crazy about motorcycles while they soaked up every word. I'd never told Kevin or anyone else the details of my past. I only talked about the present and the future. David noticed that the sun was just in the right spot outside to take a picture of me, Daddy, and Yellow. Daddy thought that was a great idea, while I just rolled my eyes, but I got dragged into it. I knelt down and put my arms around Yellow. David took that picture too. Daddy took a picture of the 3 of us. For some reason, I decided that I'd take a picture of my dad and my guys. I wouldn't know until months later that my guys had really treasured that picture as I did the one of me, Daddy, and Yellow. Later, as the 3 of us were in the kitchen to wash dishes, David said to me, I know this is probably a dumb question, but why didn't your dad get mad about you saying that he knocked your mom up when she was 14? I mean, he had to have been close to the same age, right? He was washing the dishes and Kevin was drying them while I sat on the counter and watched. Because he's my uncle, and he was talking about his sister. My mother got pregnant by some guy, then ran away. About a year after she had me, she overdosed and died. He found me in an orphanage when I was 4 or 5. He adopted me and I call him Daddy. I never knew my mother, and I don't know who my biological dad is either. I'm what they call a bastard. They asked a few other questions, which I answered as generally as I could. They were especially curious about the orphanage. Then they wanted to talk about how I'd driven my dad's truck on the road during the past years and what had made me think that I could drive a big-ass tractor down the road for gas. Then we talked about motocross. You really talked back to your dad. My parents would knock me into the next week if I ever said one of those things you said to your dad, Kevin told me. David agreed with him. I've always talked to him like an adult and vice versa. No biggie, at least most of the time. There have been a handful of times he's whipped my ass for it, I replied in a non-committed way. And normally I don't yell at him, but I was just so angry about him and the overdose speech. You know that you drive your dad crazy, don't you? Kevin remarked. That's part of my charm, I agreed. Hey, you know what? Kevin asked David, changing the subject. Your face is clearer than it was. I told you that her touching the Irish Spring soap helps. David touched his face and frowned. Then he had to look in the bathroom mirror. It is clearer. What the fuck? He remarked in surprise. You really are a witch, aren't you? No, still a bully, I replied back. I was hoping he wouldn't ask too many questions or think about it too much. I really shouldn't have helped them like I had done because it brought attention to what I could do that others couldn't. Well, bully, can you touch another bar of soap for me? Yeah, me too, Kevin agreed. Okay, just don't tell my dad, okay? I asked back. She is a witch. David murmured to Kevin. No, she's a bear cub, Kevin giggled. Oh my God, now they were going to tease me with the pet names that my dad called me. For that, I was going to chase after them and wrestle them to the ground.